All right, it is officially 9 a.m. Pacific time. Welcome, everybody, to the first Paladin webinar. And this is a series that will be taking place on a weekly basis, hopefully, Tuesdays and Thursdays. To begin with, we're going to go through some of the presentations that we covered at the user group conference that we just had a few months back here in Bend, in which we have periodically at some of the marketing shows and trade shows out there. So the reason why we are doing this, and by the way, let me introduce myself first. This is Charles Owen from Paladin. I've been with the company about 7 years. My main role is Business Alliance Manager, so I manage the relationships with the suppliers and other computer vendors and such. Oftentimes I'm at the shows, and I'm also doing different things to help sales and marketing out as well. So the reason why we're doing this is to help make everybody help make our customers more successful. And to do that, we want to make sure that you have all the latest and greatest information. Paladin puts out updates quite frequently, as you know, and some of those updates don't necessarily make it to the managers of the store and the store owners so they can implement those new features. So that's kind of why we're doing this seminar series or this webinar series, is to enable you to have a venue in which you can see all the latest and greatest features that are in Paladin, and also be able to share ideas. And we'll be doing this through PowerPoint. We'll also be doing this through a Paladin, showing the actual application as well. All right, so there's no two stores that run alike, as you know, and Paladin has multiple dials and switches and knobs in it that helps you tweak the system to perform to the way you want it to. So what this webinar series today, the top 10 most overlooked features, is talking about, we're going to talk about some of those features that have come out that you may not necessarily have activated. So that's what we're going to discuss today. So at the end of this recording, or at the end of this webinar, there will be a recording that you can go in and see a copy of this webinar and share it with others as well. That's at paladinpointofsale.com/webinars. That is all spelled out, pointofsale.com/webinars. Also at the end of this, there will be a short survey with only 3 questions. Please answer those questions. We need your feedback. We want to know if this is effective for you or not. And the next webinar we're doing is going to be this coming Thursday, day after tomorrow, at 9 o'clock as well. And that one will be building custom reports using Excel and ODBC. All right, so I think that's it for the introduction. Let's go ahead and get started. So the screen you're looking at right now is our title slide. It is really, this is for any audience. Anybody can watch this. So let's just go to the next slide here. Talk about the first one of the most overlooked features. Some time ago, we came out with a hot button for reports. So you can basically create preset reports and just hit a hotkey to go into that. So your daily balancing report, for example, your revenue report, the inventory valuation report, as well as other reports that you run at the end of the month. You can set those up so that they are just one hotkey, a function key at the bottom of the screen. You can also set those up to where they run automatically at night. So when you come in the morning, the report will have already been run. So it turns these reports into a single push-button command, and it also allows it to run at an off time. So you don't have to worry about it. The end of the month comes, you don't necessarily have to be in the office to run the accounts receivable summary report or the inventory valuation report. Or say it comes to the end of the year, I get this request a lot where our customers will call and say, oh, I forgot to run the inventory valuation report on December 31st, and it's the first week of January. Well, you can go back in time. We just load an update or a backup from that specific time period, and we run it, and we can retrieve that information. But it'd be nice if it just ran automatically. You can do that with preset reports. So I'm excited about this feature. This is the first in the 10 most overlooked features, and we'll move on to the next option, number 2, which is the email option. So if you all are not using the email option, I would suggest, highly suggest and recommend that you use it. You can get a lot of benefits out of this feature. Now, depending on when you purchase the Paladin system, it may or may not be included with your license. You can check and see. We try to include it in every license that we sell, but on the pharmacy side of the spectrum, it's not really a feature that's used that often, but it would be beneficial for pharmacy as well. So what it enables you to do, there's multiple times when you might want to email. One is at the time of purchase. So the email can just go out with the invoice. Their phone will ding on their smartphone with the receipt right there in their email before they even leave the counter. That's kind of cool. All right, also emailing statements at the end of the month. You've got an opportunity where if you do 200 statements a month and you're roughly spending about $5 in resources and paper and stamps and everything else, it really benefits if you can trim that back and call the folks up and say, hey, would you like to join our email statement program? And that way, it's going to reduce the amount of effort and resources on your side, and they have the information in their email, and it's your contribution to saving the world, right? Saving the earth with green features. Next, you can also email purchase orders. Purchase orders can be sent directly from the PO sending option. So when you're in PO, you can have it to where it sends the purchase order directly up. This is for non-EDI or electronic data interchange suppliers. You can just send the email directly to the order directly to them via email. Okay. All right. The next feature. So email option is a nice one. Now here's one that it doesn't seem that it's that important, but it really is. We've added a number of different ways that you can recall past invoices. Most people today, you're probably sitting there going, yeah, you can only do this through the customer module. Well, it's not true. You actually can do it from the invoice and quote module as well as the inventory module. So we've enabled you to be able to get access to invoices more easily and made them more accessible. We also have another way you can get copies of your invoices, and that is through the reports module, right? So you can run a transaction report. So what I need to know, transaction report will enable you to get the same information. So how do you do it from invoice and quote? And what's so nice about that? Well, what's nice is you don't have to leave the invoice and quote module to go to the customer module if you have a customer on the other side of the counter saying, I need a copy of my receipt. Normally, we have the habit of going to the customer module, looking for their profile or their record, calling up all their invoices, double-clicking on it, and printing it. Well, you can do that right from invoice and quote module. Just go into invoice and quote, F1 advanced lookup, and from there, you'll be able to see the history tab. You go to the history tab, and it's going to ask you to enter in an invoice. If you don't put in an invoice and just hit that next button, it's going to give you every single item at the item level, the part number or the med or whatever it might be, that that person has purchased since day one. And you just go down the list. If you want to see that original invoice, just double-click it, and it will recall either a small form or a large form depending on what was originally printed. In addition, at that same spot, you can either add that item to the invoice or credit them by putting a -1 in that quantity field. So the number of different features you can do from that history lookup. But recalling past invoices is something that you don't necessarily have to go back to the customer module to do. Okay? Let's go on to number 4, setting supplier ratios. Now this one there's a lot more information and detailed information about this in Knowledge Base, and you can get help through the customer service folks. But what this is intended for are when you are buying with one unit of measure and you're selling with another. All right, let's have an example. The example you see right here is, let's say you have a spool of chain or rope or Velcro or whatever it might be, and you sell it by the foot. Well, you want to be able to sell it by the foot, so you want to track it by the foot. But when you order it, you can't order it by the foot, because if you went and tried to order it by the foot, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to order 250 feet, and what's going to happen is the order will come to your supplier as 250 spools of 250 foot, and that's not going to work. So what we enable you to do is to put a quantifier, and that is the order quantity amount. So you put the actual per unit unit of measure, which in this case would be per foot, so there'd be 250. The next step is to go down to the supplier ratio at the bottom left-hand side of the screen on this window that you're looking at, and you just put in the supplier ratio. What is the supplier ratio? It's real easy. You just take 1 and you divide it by 250. You always take 1 and divide it by the number you have in order quantity. That gives you your supplier ratio. What does this do? Well, what this does is now when you order the item, you can order 250, but it's only going to send it to the supplier as 1. That's kind of cool. Now here's what you have to do on the pricing screen. So on the pricing screen, make sure you set your prices to per foot cost as well as per foot retail. Okay. You can also add the multiple quantity cost of per spool. So you can have 1 foot at say 50 cents a foot, but if they buy the whole spool, it's only 35 cents a foot. So you can do that through that pricing screen. Okay. So there's more information about this on Knowledge Base. I'm not going to show you an actual demo on this with the application, but you can see that in the knowledge base or talk to one of your customer service representatives. Number 5, this one has been way overlooked. It is one of those things that you have to really make a determination whether or not it's right for your business. At invoicing right now, most of the time when you scan an item and it doesn't find it and just comes up and says part number not found, right? That's the end of the story. That's the only option you have. And you have to press, F8 or cancel to move beyond that and continue scanning. Well, there is a feature that you can enable in the File Setup Company tab, which will enable you to set this so it gives you an opportunity to look for another part number if you scan a number that's not been found. You can't search by text or by description, but you can search by another number. So if you scan an item, let's say there's 2 barcodes on an item, you scan one, comes up and says part number number not found, and you have to hit F8, then you go, scan the second one and it finds it. Well, that's fine, but the next time you do it, it's still going to ask you tell you that the first one's not found. So if you go into File Setup Company, there's a button where you can say add alternate part numbers from invoicing. And what that'll enable you to do is you can scan the first one, it'll come up, say part not found, but then it'll give you an option to put an alternate part number. At that point, you just scan that bottom line and it's going to come up and say, oh, this is this widget. Is this what you want to add this alternate part number to? And you say yes, it's done. So from that moment marching forward, whether you scan the top barcode or the bottom barcode, they're both going to scan the same SKU. All right. Again, it can be a little bit dangerous if your cashiers don't understand how it works or how it functions, and they just haphazardly scan other numbers or type in codes and such. You can wind up associating alternate part numbers to items that you don't necessarily want to associate them with. So a little caution there. All right, number 6. This is one accounting control feature that we added probably 6-8 months ago. And it's something that needs to be activated in the Setup Company tab. It's close to the top where it says, activate new customer accounting control. What that will do is it will trigger another line item in your employee setup tab so you can restrict employees from certain activities within customers. Currently, you probably have the customer window just grayed out. That's the customer tab at the very top, the customer module between invoice and quote and inventory. It could be grayed out for most cashiers. Well, now you can, if you trust your cashiers a little bit, you can actually activate the customer tab or module, but block out certain things. So you can block out adding credit limits, for example. So they can add new customers, they just can't add a credit limit. It also blocks out the profit button, so your employees won't be able to see the profit. That they'll see exactly how much money they're making off of this customer, the gross amount, but they won't see the actual profit. And it grays out the credit window so they can't change anything in the credit window. So it kind of gives your trusted cashiers another avenue to add new customers without the fear of adding, credit limits that, for their friends or whatever it might be. So that's kind of a cool feature. It needs to be activated again in two places: Setup Company tab, where you identify that you want to incorporate the new customer account control, and then in the employee record, you're going to have a checkbox there that says, either give them access or don't give them access to the accounting information. All right, let's look at item number 7, special orders. So this is a feature that was designed and rolled out a lot. I think a lot of stores can benefit from this because we all have special orders in our stores. Whether you're a pharmacy or a hardware store or a lumber building material or whatever it might be, you're going to have people asking for certain things. Now, there's two types of special orders, right? There's those that you create from scratch, like a custom window, a custom door, a custom, compounding or something of that nature. And you can do that through the Advanced Lookup Special Order tab. Now, special order tabs may not come up under your Advanced Lookup window. Well, it's because it's not activated. You have to turn on that feature, and that's also in the Setup Company tab, kind of down towards the center. It'll say there'll be a Special Orders section, and you can activate special orders. And there's some other options you can set in there as well, which I'll describe in a minute. So that's one type of special order. That's where you have to create the item, you create the SKU. You can do that right from invoicing and quoting. You can add and create a SKU to your inventory, right? And that's just done by this special order tab. You fill in the information on the screen. What's the order number? It could be anything. It could be that window order number that came from the manufacturer. Then you type in the description, supplier, cost, sale price, and quantity to order, and then the desired date when it's going to come down. And then you can also set up a department code for it as well. So that's done if it's a real new kind of inventing the item on the fly. Now, if it's an item that's in a catalog somewhere and all you're doing is adding it from the catalog, you don't have to go into the special order window, but you can still participate within the special order features. All you do is store it as a special order when you store that transaction. You know how you can do store quote, stored on hold? Well, this is store special order, and it will lock it in and store it under a particular customer name. If you don't have a customer assigned to that special order, it will prompt you with a name and a phone number. It'll just automatically prompt you. Now, you can activate a feature that enables a cashier to add customers on the fly right from invoicing and quoting, so they don't have to go to the customer screen. That's kind of cool as well. So there's a number of things that special order kicks off. It creates a SKU. If it's a new SKU, it locks it in at a 0 maximum quantity, so you cannot actually order any additional, using suggested order report. It just won't show up on the report. You can always order additional, but it has to be a manual function. All right. At the same time, it puts it on hold in the inventory. It also earmarks that special order and ties it to that customer. And last but not least, it creates a purchase order that's pending in the system to be ordered and received. So it does all these things. Just saving it as a special order kicks off all these events. Now, you're probably thinking, well, can I add non-special order items to the same invoice? The answer is yes. There's a button on the special order screen that you see here. It says, do not create POs past this point. All right. So if you create your catalog items or your special order items, and you say, okay, I'm going to add hinges and doorknobs and whatever else below it, you can do that. Just click on this do not create POs, and it won't create a PO for that, which means when they come in to pick up the item, you should have those in stock. it'll identify them as on hold, but it won't actually put them on the pending purchase order. Okay. There's more information about special orders in the knowledge-based system within Paladin. Check it out. It's a cool feature, and it's working really well. All right, number 8 of the 10 most overlooked features is the new quantity discount break. All right, so this one is really, really cool. If you guys haven't discovered this yet, it's really nice. You probably run into a scenario if you have multiple pricing levels or discount breaks. So you get 1, it's this amount. You buy 3, it's this amount. You buy 10, it's this amount, right? If that price changes on the first line, it doesn't proliferate down if you have a hard-coded price in, right? So when you receive an EDI price change file, it changes the per one price, but it won't proliferate down to change the next quantity discount breaks. Well, until now. This feature takes care of that issue. What you do to set it up is under the reference margin for all those second and third and fourth tier pricing levels or quantity discount breaks is you put a negative number in that reference field as you see here on the screen. Like -10 would be a 10% off of the single price. -20 would be a 20% off the single price, and so on. So you can set these bars or these quantity discount breaks, and now anytime that price changes, whether you change it on the fly or you receive an EDI file or whatever it might be, it's going to proliferate down automatically. So that's going to solve that problem of you having to go in and tweak the prices in the quantity discount range if you have if you're using EDI and your prices are changing automatically. All right, so this will just cover that. If you're not doing EDI, it works well as well. You can just go in and change one spot pricing field, and it will proliferate all the way down. Now, one thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't do the rounding on those items, because that wouldn't be the percentage off that we're looking for. So it's a very specific pricing. Okay, cool feature. Reference margins can be used for other things that you know as well. They can be used for dump SKUs, and they can also be used if you want to lock in a margin and have the price fluctuate. Anytime the cost changes, it can look at the reference margin. So that's another topic, but there are 3 functions basically that reference margin enables you to do. The one that we're talking about today is the one that helps proliferate the prices down automatically. Okay, 9, the kit feature, another feature that most of you don't have activated on your system, and maybe you don't need it. But kits are kind of nice. You can make, like, for example, a doghouse or a shed, or you know, a compounding item where you have a custom over-the-counter compound that you might want to sell. It works really well for feed stores as well. You might have a recipe that you build, a chicken feed, your own custom brand, that you don't want people to know what you put in that particular recipe, but you want it decremented from the inventory. So that's what the kit feature enables you to do. It allows you to have multiple items, and you just add it with one single SKU. So if you have a shed, for example, and you've got 300 items in it, you just build that shed kit one time, and now from that point forward, all you do is type in, you know, shed or whatever you want to make the kit name, and it just puts in all that information in the invoice. Pardon me. It's a really cool feature. Let me just sit there. So it also can be set up. There are 3 different ways you can set them up. I won't go into the detail. Knowledge Base has a great article on this. It goes into the 3 different ways that you might want to set this up. But you have to be cognizant of making sure that your margins are intact. You also have to make a determination whether you want the items hidden or showing on the invoice, and then whether or not you want them to be free and or a discounted price or standard price. So you make these kits up. Once you lock in a kit, they're pretty much locked in. And to enable this feature, again, Company Setup tab, you have to go to Enable Kit Functionality. Then you have to create a, well, first you need to create a class ID for it. So you just go to the Setup class key, create a kit. I created one called 121212, and then that's the key that you put as a kit class number under the Setup Company tab. And there's one other thing you have to do, and you have to create the kit SKU. And the kit SKU that you create is all you do is put that class number as either class number position 1, 2, or 3 on that kit SKU item, and you're done. It's a cool feature. More information on knowledge base. All right, last, we've been at this about 24 minutes now, so we're pretty much on time. The 10th one is, this is another one that's been overlooked. It's the integrated web browser. So we have an iframe that we build directly into the system. Forgive me. Log into Paladin here. This enables you to call up and recall a vendor site right at checkout. You can do it at checkout. You can also do it in the PO mode and in inventory mode. So you can actually peer into the supplier's website and look up product right here. You can look and see if it's in the warehouse, look at a picture, things of that nature. It also limits you just to that website, so you can't play around on Facebook or any of those other sites. All right, so I also discovered something in this that I've talked to a few store owners, and they've added this feature. If you have items in the yard and the customer can't carry it in the store, they just say, oh, I'm going to buy 3 of those stone blocks out there. Well, which one? Well, the 8-inch one. Well, we have 4 different types of 8-inch one. What color? What brand? What did it look like? Believe it or not, in this advanced lookup vendor site, you can actually build a single page or multiple pages with photographs and the SKU number right on it. So you can call this up and you can show it to the customer, say, you know, which item was it, and then the cashier just copies that item and puts it into the invoice, and it pops right up. So how is that done? Well, it's really simple. It's not that technical. You just call up a Word file, you put your pictures in it, you put the text in it that you want, and the invoice or the SKU numbers in there, and then you save it as an HTML file, and it just saves it as a web. But that web file is actually just looking at your file system. So kind of a cool way to do it. You just save it as a web page, go into your browser, call up that item, grab that URL, and that goes into the URL that you put into the supplier tab. So you create a new supplier for this page, if you will, and you call it stones. And you put that URL in there. Now on this list of vendor site, you'll see Ace, Cardinal, Emery, Stones. And you click on Stones, and that screen will come up with the pictures, and it's kind of a cool way to do it. All right, we're at the end of the presentation. That's it for this presentation. There is a survey that will pop up on the screen. I'm not sure if it popped up right now or if it's going to pop up when I exit. This is new to me. This is our first webinar that we did. So thank you for attending, everybody. We're going to have this recorded, as I mentioned. It's going to be at paladinpointofsale.com/webinars, and that's spelled out, point of sale. The questions that have been coming in, if any, hopefully have been answered for you. Michael Horn has been assisting me here, so hopefully he's done a good job at answering those questions. But again, thank you for your time. I'm going to go ahead and sign off here, and hope you guys have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you Thursday.